This is Basecamp Presents, the podcast and live event series by Basecamp Co-working. I'm Dustin Schultz, your host. Are you feeling healthy and clear-headed and focused? And if so, excellent for you. Just leave this podcast now and go take over the world. But if you think there is more for your health, for your clarity, for your energy, then this episode is definitely for you. As entrepreneurs and career-focused people, as just human beings, many of us want to feel less cloudy, less bloated, have more energy, and that's not even considering the chronic conditions or serious things that people face with their health on a daily basis. This is why we asked Dr. Megan Tantillo to come on Basecamp Presents. She's a holistic healthcare provider and she's an entrepreneur. She opened her own company called Holistic Health Code over 6 years ago and grew it from a coaching business to a brick and mortar location. And that in less than a year of that brick and mortar location, they're moving out to a new space, double the size, double the staff. They're doing amazingly. And she shares that story of going from being a healthcare expert to learning how to build a business. And she shares the 3 non-negotiables in her life that helps her live the healthiest version of herself. And admittedly, it's never perfect, but if you take one of her super practical tips and apply it to your life, then you're already headed in the right direction. But all right, that's enough of me. Let's dive into the podcast. Trust for the healthcare system as a whole is so difficult.
It is.
And
now more than ever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's that like being on the other side of that as you navigate distrust?
Yeah, I think being outside of the insurance model is huge. People have a different connection with me because of that, I think. It is tough, though. I have to build that rapport and trust with people. But being outside the model definitely helps because they understand that we can do more and we're not bound by insurance and can make the decision for the patient versus a bigger corporation.
Is there a perception? I think my brain does this a little bit, where like the perception is insurance is almost like a stamp of approval, and when you operate outside of it, it's kind of like voting for the not Republican or Democrat party. Someone's just like, well, like that's not really part of how the system works.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Did people seem to feel that way?
I honestly think, and I know I already said this, but now more than ever, people are looking for different.
Yeah.
And that looks like outside of the insurance model.
Yeah.
So I think it's a challenge, but on the other side, or on the other hand, it's not, because this is what people are looking for and need now, coming off of something like COVID especially.
Sure.
There's so much distrust based on that collective experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, now people are trying to look for something else, and they have an understanding that there's more that they can do, I think, largely based on that experience.
Do you feel like there's been a classic story of a type of person that comes to you in the last, like, let's say, so you've been around for way more years.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
So you started Holistic Health. Was it Holistic Health Code by name in 2018?
Yep. Holistic Health Code, LLC.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And what did those services start as?
Coaching, health coaching.
Yeah.
Yep. So really it came from my need as a patient. I was looking for a provider and was seeing specialist after specialist, really not getting the care that I needed. And over time, I was introduced to functional medicine and more of a holistic way of doing things, and was introduced to coaching and had this great awakening that there was a lot more that I can do to control my health, change my diet, change my lifestyle. So as I started to learn to care for myself, I realized that this is something that everybody needs. Like, I felt like I wanted to share it with all my friends and everybody that I cared about, because it felt like this thing that was a secret, that there was more that you could do. You could change your diet and lifestyle and avoid medications potentially, or avoid chronic symptoms.
What was your coach like?
My coach? So I worked with somebody that was similar to me. She was a nurse practitioner, And she ran some tests on me that I didn't realize were a thing. I didn't realize you could test your hormones. Didn't realize you can test your stool. Poop in a cup for science.
For sure. Done it for my dog before. But
yeah. Honestly, it's the coolest test, I feel like. Gives you a lot of information. But yeah, she just like opened my eyes to this new way of life. So I got to a point where I was like, I need to share this. And started way before I was ready, but also like had information to share with people that was beneficial.
Yeah.
So I just started coaching as like a passion project, more or less. I was still working at the bedside at the time, but started to get a few handful of clients, mostly like family members. And then it just grew, got amazing outcomes, started to post them online, honestly, and like share my story online.
Yeah.
And my clientele got to a point where I was able to leave the bedside and really leaned into the coaching gig.
Excuse me, it's me, Dustin, with a quick interruption to remind you that Basecamp Presents is brought to you by Basecamp Co-working. Basecamp has memberships and day passes for those who need a space to work, a space to host a meeting, or if you're looking for a private office to launch your own business out of. We have free coffee, a podcast studio, and discounts to a bunch of local businesses near us, and you can learn more at basecampwork.com. All right, back to things. What do you think? I feel like starting any business, you kind of go through plateaus where you hit like different aha moments, I guess I'll say. What was the first couple for you as you moved from family and friends to somebody, like the first name that reached out that you didn't know who they were?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Man, I think the outcomes and like what we were able to achieve still surprises me. Like to this day, seeing our reviews that come in, I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy.
You guys have great Google reviews.
Our reviews are wild. Like whenever I'm feeling, because there will be ebbs and flows. Whenever I'm in that, ebb, I just go to Google because I'm like, okay, we helped all of these people on here in a major way. So
what are the hardest days, do you feel like, as a provider?
Hard days, I think right now what makes it hard is that I have a lot of responsibilities. I have a lot of hats. So I'm being pulled in like 3 to 4 different directions constantly.
Yeah.
So it's hard to feel like you're doing a good job at the things that you have to do when you have a lot on your plate. So I think in those circumstances when I'm feeling overwhelmed, those are hard days.
Yeah.
But honestly, I just hang on and it gets better. It always comes back around.
And that's as a business owner and a provider.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you feel like there was an aspect of moving from being like a provider or like for somebody who's maybe an operator, like they do a thing, right? They have a skill set. But then to move to being a business owner, it's a totally different
so hard
thing.
Yeah. If I can stay in my lane of genius, which I really truly believe is caring for patients and building relationships like this, it would be so easy. My job would be so easy. But it's the other stuff that I really struggle with because I don't have any background in business. I went to school for biologic sciences and then nursing and finished out my degree. But I had to figure it out as I go and hire people and lean into mentorship. I did do a coaching program for a year for business, but it is very much a work in progress and learning as I go, which is tough.
Why is it worth it?
Why is it worth it?
To not just work for somebody else, doing what you do.
Such a good question. I think the outcomes, like what we're able to achieve, is so fulfilling because I've been there, spinning my wheels, needing somebody, needing a provider, and not getting the care that I needed, or feeling like I was crazy because the symptoms that I was having and struggling with, none of the treatments that I was presented were working. And honestly, it was medications a lot of the time. And I'm not against medication. I use medications myself. I prescribe it all the time. But there had to be more. There has to be more to this. I was 20 at the time.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do to get better and stay better? So, yeah, I think to answer your question, you said, what is it like? It's amazing. The outcomes are worth it.
Yeah.
But the lows are low and the highs are high, as you know.
Yeah.
But the highs are high, and that's what keeps me going.
With your team, what does that look like practicing kind of what you preach related to living healthy?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about that as you're describing, I have ebbs and flows in the days. And literally yesterday, my meal set was great. I'm coming off of over the winter, I started like learning about macros and started applying that with a coach, and it really helped a lot. Now I'm kind of doing my own like I'm tracking these things a bit myself. And then coming into yesterday, I like had great meals across the day, watching my proteins, and then it's like I don't think I realized how like burnt I was from the day of just going hard all day. And then it's like 10:30 at night, and my father-in-law had dropped off donut holes to the girls, and I found them on the counter. And I'm like,
gotta do it sometimes.
What are you doing here? What does applying this stuff to you and your team and the people you work with look like in like foundational, practical ways?
Yeah.
Like, what are some things that you've changed over the year?
Oh, good question. I feel like, first of all, it's walking the walk. Like, that's so important to me. I want our patients that come in to feel like we're a positive, healthy influence on them. I think we've all been in that position of like seeing a provider and like maybe not having trust in them because of maybe their lifestyle practices, or maybe they don't walk the walk.
Sure.
So that is a really important part of our mission, is embodying this health and happiness. It is a constant tweak. It's a constant work in progress, trying to figure out what works, and what works for you now is probably not going to work for you later. You know, it's a constant change of understanding like what it is that you need. I think for me at this point, it very much is a lifestyle. I have these like stakes in the ground, or non-negotiables for me. And for me, it's movement, making sure that I'm moving at least a couple times a week. Eating, honestly, as a business owner, super busy. It's easy to skip meals, skip breakfast,
Do you have
skip
any
lunch.
filter to that at all? Any specifics around you? Like, do you add another non-negotiable to your eating plan?
Yeah, I would say whole foods, as close to nature as much as possible, and then protein is my main area of focus. If you can get your protein in, more often than not, your other macros will fall into place. You've probably experienced that. So if I'm going to focus on anything with nutrition, and my patients, my clients know this, it's going to be protein.
Yeah. What are you doing protein powders?
Oh yeah. I feel like I can't get enough in if I don't.
Yeah.
People do all the time, but it's a commitment. You really have to be conscious and plan for it and prep a lot of the time. So I'm a big biohacker. Like, I like to make things easy on myself. And I like a collagen. I like a protein powder. I think just like hacking small snacks or meals during your day to like hit those macros is what enables me to do that, is using those powders and things like that.
There's depending on your like, each individual kind of has a different protein goal.
Yeah.
What's the average? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know that I'm supposed to go for about 165 grams of protein a day is what I'm always shooting for. What's like the average rate? Like, what do you do?
I would say it depends on your goals, first of all.
Yeah. You're crushing 250.
No way. Maybe 120 a day. I shoot for 100 a day.
Okay.
I would say 1 pound or 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is like a decent framework.
An amazing rule of thumb.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
However, with patients that come to me, we sort of start with like, what are you doing now?
Yeah.
Because if we were to start completely over, like scrape their slate clean, I say this a lot, and start completely over with nutrition and build out a plan, that is going to be so hard and it's going to feel like a complete rework and it's going to be overwhelming. But if we can understand where you're at now in terms of nutrition, what you're doing now, what you're liking, and take one step forward from there, that is more likely to lead to a success that we can take another step from there.
What's one modification? Like, what tends to be the first singular step where someone's like, this is my baseline. This is what I'm doing now. It's donuts at 10:30 because I had a long night.
Yeah.
So maybe kill that. But what's the first thing that most people need to just make that first degree of change? Yeah,
I think not to like totally be a dead horse, but the protein thing. And I always talk about too, like, there's room for everything, including donuts, if that's your thing. But it's more or less like, what can we add to that that's going to offer more nutritional value, that's going to balance your blood sugar, keep you full and satisfied. When you're full, when your blood sugar is balanced, you're going to feel less anxious. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have more clarity. You're going to be able to be a better human, be more successful in what you're doing when you have fuel in the tank. And donuts alone are going to spike and drop your blood sugar. You're going to feel like garbage. Can we swear? Because I'm thinking.
Yes,
okay.
yes. Because
you will feel like shit.
Yes, 100%. And that was, I wasn't even done eating the ones I have
And
when
you're
I was just like, this is not the life I want for myself.
Yeah. No.
And right before bed too, when you're just like, I can't like work out this off. I'm going to wake up feeling terrible. I know it. But it's emotional. It's an emotional thing.
It is, but the food is emotional. It's cultural. It's a celebration. Sure. So I feel like, again, having room and space for everything is so important, but it's what can we add to this that can allow you to eat this in a way that's going to support your goals. And there is room for everything. You just have to figure it out. And a lot of the time it's protein. Yeah. That's lacking.
So I interrupted your rules of thumb, which were everyday movement. Actually eat, because I did get to a point in my journey of skipping meals, and I just didn't realize like how much it affected me. Yeah. I think, men do better with fasting, and that's one thing, but as a female with cycling hormones, I need nutrition. And not saying that men don't, but skipping meals, it doesn't support you. Yeah. And I love the rule of thumb of just take your body weight, shoot for that protein goal, and it's a great like jumping off point. Yeah. What were some of your next
non-negotiables? Yeah. So it will depend also on what your goals are, but I also have a understanding and awareness of gut health. I try to have some type of practice in my day-to-day that's going to support my gut health. My colleague, Dr. P, I hope you can meet him one day. He refers to this, and I hope I get this right, as your gut health overall as the window to the rest of your health. And if you can optimize your gut health, it's going to reflect in other areas of your life. So I try to have some type of practice. Right now, I'm super into collagen and colostrum. Okay. So I add those. I have colostrum in my water in front of me.
I didn't realize collagen was good for your gut.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, it helps to support the integrity of the gut wall. Now we are exposed to so many things in our environment, food to glyphosate, herbicide, pesticide that damages the gut wall. And when the gut wall is damaged, you are more prone to inflammation, food allergies that can clinically show up like GI symptoms, but also can be nonspecific like joint pain, brain fog, just feeling like garbage. Yeah. So I think most people could benefit from some type of practice to support their gut health, and that's my non-negotiable right now is collagen and colostrum.
I'm pretty good about the movement, and I'm getting a lot better about the eating. But I feel like the gut health, I feel like I need to like run my card for this session, basically, because it's like. So what about like active cultures and stuff? Is that kind of, so along with the protein, I'll try and have like Greek yogurt, right? Because that's a great way to have a lot of protein in, right? And it's easy. But yogurts support gut health, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah. Well, I think there's obviously you're getting exposed to probiotics in yogurt, but I think the argument with yogurt is that we don't know how many active probiotics get to where they need to go. Oh, sure. So with probiotics, there's certain technology that allows those bugs to get to where they need to, the large intestine, the colon, to actually have a beneficial effect on the host. Yeah. So with yogurt, kombucha, things like that, I think there are benefits associated with it. Sure. But if you're looking for a therapeutic effect, I am more prone to using something like a probiotic that has a capsule that we can sort of measure like how much you're getting and then seeing your outcome based on that intervention.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but yogurt is great. Kombucha is great. Anything fermented I would keep in the diet. Yeah. But from more of like a treatment standpoint, I would use something more like a capsule or
so you could actually use a probiotic capsule theoretically if you're feeling inflammation and like brain fog.
Oh, yeah. There are certain strains. Well, I should back up and say there are certain strains that do certain things. So if you need something to support brain fog or skin health or cardiac health, metabolic health, then there are specific species that you'll want to choose, and you'll work with your provider to figure out what those are. Yeah. But from more of like a general standpoint, there are probiotics on the market that are considered broad spectrum that have a range of probiotics that can kind of hit all of those tenets. Yeah. Maybe that's a good place to start.
Yeah, and I shouldn't feel terrified about the word bugs or species.
No, yes, well, you have a microbiome. Bugs live in and on your body, and you quite literally need them to survive. You can't live life without them.
Sure.
So
I guess I don't like to think about it, but it's, yeah.
I know it's weird to think about, like seriously, like on your skin, in your nose.
Okay, so is that your third non-negotiable right now?
Yeah, it is. Just prioritizing my gut health because it, again, is the window to the rest of my health.
Yeah, and it's basically the three right now that you're focused on.
Yeah. It changes over time. I think there's a couple others that I'd like to get to that I was trying to prepare for this talk, and I wrote like a few that I'm like, I need to refocus on these things. But what we were saying earlier, it changes. It will change once you sort of get to that point of feeling like you reached your goals. It shifts.
What do you feel like what are those things you're trying to refocus on, and
I'm trying
why?
to think what the one that I can think of is trying to lean into my intuition more and trusting myself more. I've gotten to this point where I know a lot, but I built my team based on the notion of surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me and better than me. And I think I default to asking questions a lot, which is good, but I have to trust myself more. So I'm working on that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's like the context of that? I'm curious because I have the same thinking, right? Surround myself with people that are smarter than me, but you also have to lead them.
Yes.
So like tell me more.
How can I expand on this? As a nurse, I feel like we are indoctrinated like early on to, you don't need to know the answer, but you need to know your resources. So that's, I think, have been my focus up until this point, is like building my team, getting my resources, getting the right people around me. But I think maybe as a female, I struggle sometimes with leaning into that intuition and making decisions and trusting myself to do so. I don't know if this is making sense.
No,
but
it is.
I'm trying more to make decisions by myself and being okay with that.
Yeah.
And if it's wrong, it's wrong. But I'm trying to have more of a, I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It 100% makes sense. Because I think when I've kind of had those doubt moments, are you talking mainly more on the health side or more on the business side?
I think just in general, not in the health side, more in the business side. Yeah.
No, I think like there's this perception that there's just these rock star people out there who kind of like know everything. And we were talking about this really before we started recording.
Yeah.
I learned about you around last year, and my wife started going to you. And to your like, we had said this where one of the things I was even gonna say is like, man, you've been blowing up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you said that too. You're like, people say like, man, you've been blowing up, but it's been 7 years. To get to the overnight success, right? So that to me, it's kind of that same thing where I've run a video production agency for 13 years, and I still feel like I'm just starting in a lot of ways. It's constantly reworking.
Yeah, it is.
And it's like you're learning, and I've hired and I've let people go. It's way harder than hiring.
Yeah, for sure.
Letting people go. And man, I don't even know how to say it. I just so deeply resonate with what you're saying.
I know. I feel like it's hard to articulate what I mean because I trust myself. I've gotten to this point.
Yeah.
But I don't know, we're at this turning point in the business that I feel like I really need to step into this leadership role. Not that I haven't, but there's a shift that's happening, and I need to trust myself that I gotten to this point for a reason. Yeah. And I've made the right decisions. I've gathered the right people. So I need to trust that and trust my path. Yeah. And I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I do, but it ebbs and flows. There are weeks that I'm like, holy shit.
What am I doing?
What did I do?
Right. 100%.
Yeah. But then the next week I'm like, I'm the best thing that ever happened to this person.
Yes,
you know?
1,000,000%.
So.
Yeah, that's so real. And anyone who's like an entrepreneur or business owner who like that resonates so deeply.
Yeah.
I think trying to formulate like the question from this, because what it is it's like it's kind of this emotional lie in a sense where you're like, I feel discouraged, maybe based on something in particular, but also maybe it could even be kind of like a health thing where you're like, I just don't feel clear today. And I begin to doubt kind of everything else.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
It's like a spiral sometimes.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to take care of yourself and to prioritize your health and your happiness. Because if I do that, I'm a better human all around. I can be a better provider, better in my relationships, better in business. So that's why the mission really is to embody this health and happiness and walk the walk.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what do you think are what were some of your favorite aha moments along the way related to that business? Like the opposite of the days that were like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But some of those things where I'll give an example because my question doesn't make sense. But it's like we years ago hired a consultant who helped us understand how to talk about ourselves as a company. And then another time I hired a consultant who helped me learn how to do financial projections for the company and then systematize it for somebody who's like not a financial person like me. What do you feel like were some of those moments for you, whether it was pre-brick and mortar space or post?
Yeah, definitely pre. And it's still a work in progress, honestly.
Yeah.
Like crafting your message is so challenging and you have to get it right. Otherwise you're speaking to nobody, So I think I mentioned earlier on that I did a business coaching program that was a year long and that really helped me. In the time I felt like I was in the weeds and it was very overwhelming for me because I had no background in business whatsoever, and crafting my message and crafting the program and marketing, honestly, like I don't know how to market, and sales, like I don't know how to make a sale, and quite frankly I'm not interested. Like I want to change lives and I want to help people, so that was a huge lift for me. And when I nailed that, the marketing and the messaging, that was a huge aha moment. And I'm not saying that we're like completely dialed in because I still feel like there's progress to be made,
Always.
but I did realize how important that was early on to craft that messaging and also like create this brand and have this I guess vibe online and to talk about our mission in a way that people can relate to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What do you feel like were some of the key aspects of like beginning to implement that, like maybe frameworks you were thinking through or questions that were presented to you to come to that moment?
Ask me that question again differently.
So you said early on, I realized that social and not social specifically, but wrapped into marketing and sales and branding, like they were critical aspects of the business. And when you developed the answers to fill in those space, that space, what was that process like?
Yeah, I think working with people that knew how to do this type of work. So paying people to teach me, honestly, when in the beginning, maybe I didn't have the funds to do that, but it was an investment. And I took that leap to bring people on to do the business coaching so I can really learn this type of work. There's somebody on my team now that has been hugely helpful, and we're still working on a lot of things, but she helped me to really craft the messaging and to get the branding and the look of the business in a social way, right, that communicates to people, because we're all online, we're all on social now. So I think just recognizing that was going to be like a huge piece of our marketing early on helped, because you have to commit. It's a long game.
What year did you hire that person, like within your business?
Sarah started with us, it's been, I think, a year and a half now.
Okay.
And then I did the business coaching program right after I finished my doctorate in 2020, I believe.
Okay, sure.
So both of those efforts helped to shape that.
And both of those started before you had a brick and mortar space even?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think a lot of people think about how they need to pull together like their storefront or their space or like these kinds of things, but not even actually, I don't know, you realized it or didn't realize it at the time. We're building an audience before ever stepping out onto a brick and mortar based stage.
Totally. Yeah. We're refer to it as our community, but audience similarly online. Yeah, we needed to gather these people that value this type of work, because not everybody wants to, change their life, change their diet and their lifestyle. It's hard.
Yeah.
I've always believed in the mission in our work, but I think the biggest challenge was getting in front of the right people, and social helped us to do that.
Yeah. What within being a business owner, so like nailing the marketing and social, like that was a high day for you. What do you feel like were some of the things that you even began to build onto that with? Like what were some of the specifics of realizing I need to talk to my audience more in camera, on videos, or things like that? Like what were some of the really, really practicals?
I think what has shaped my effort recently, and I'm talking like last month, is just being myself. I put so much pressure on myself up until this point of like, and I am an expert, but just like being the expert and like giving the education and showing up in that way. But I think what helps most, or what translates the most, is like just being myself and being a human and being relatable and sharing my story. I think it does a better job of telling the story and marketing what we do versus like straightforward education that just feels dry. Like we as a team now, we just have fun with it and we share what we do, and people resonate with that and they want to know more. So maybe they sign up because of that.
What are things within like launching a business have you farmed out to experts versus learned how to do? Like what kind of falls on each side of that for you at this stage right now?
Yeah. So if I can go back, I think I would have hired sooner help with marketing and sales. I learned a ton over the years and with the coaching program, but there's only so much time in the day and I can't do it all. And that's something that I am very interested in. I want to be a part of, but I really can't do that and be the provider. So the marketing and the sales piece, I think I wish I would have hired sooner.
Does the person doing that for you, is that their full-time role?
No, she has some other clients too.
Okay.
So she works with us in another business, works for herself. So no, she's not full-time, but feels like it for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Puts in the hours for us.
Yeah. What about some of the other things I think people who come from I do the work background and then start to go into business, the financial side of things, the operational processes side of things, the interior design side of things for brick and mortar space. What were some of those things where like it wasn't in your skill set, but you learned, or how you pulled on other people? What were some of the practicals of that?
Yeah. So I think what comes to mind, and I don't even know if this answers your question, but I think one of my strengths is building relationships with people. I would say that I have a pretty high emotional intelligence. And because of that, I'm able to lean on relationships. And I have, fortunately, people in my social circle that do these things for work. So I've been able to call on my friend Victoria that does video and photography, and my friend Heather that helped me with the floor plan, and Sarah that does the marketing. She is my friend. We grew up together. So I think in a lot of ways it's leaning on those resources that I've built as like a human being.
Yeah. That's amazing. I think sometimes we think we have to go outside of our network of people because it's like they're a friend.
Yeah.
There must be an expert somewhere. Now I know like Victoria, for example, they listen and like her stuff's killer.
So it's amazing. It's seriously, she's like a special person. She has like a gift. Truly.
Yeah. So when people engage with you, what's the best way they typically work with Holistic Health Code? Like if someone comes to you with, what's the common story?
Yeah. So I tell my team all the time that we're in the business of changing lives, and you can do that in 6 months. And that's why we have the membership. So people come to us typically with some specific concern. Commonly it's GI related or hormone related, but it really doesn't matter what it is. We put them through this process of doing a series of testing to understand what levers we kind of need to push and pull to get them to where they need to go from like a health perspective. So we do a ton of testing. We do blood work, mentioned the stool analysis earlier, run hormone panels, and we kind of let that be our guide alongside symptoms. But to answer you more specifically, I built my coaching program around a scenario, myself needing support from my period, like hormone perspective. So most of our clients, I would say, are female or women that have some type of hormone-based concern. But with that, there's so much that's happening underneath. GI, immune dysregulation. So there's some shade of that typically comes through our doors. And then we start the work.
Yeah. What's kind of like the before and after journey, I guess, a little bit. So if you could get maybe just a touch more specific about someone's coming to you with this kind of like common frustration or complaint, and then they end up 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the road. Like, what are some of those milestones tend to look like? Like, what are you looking? Every case is different, right?
Every case is
different. What are you
different.
like typically seeing as a trajectory or looking for?
I talk about a short game and a long game often. My goal is to get people feeling better as soon as possible. And often we can tweak their sleep first, try to get them sleeping better. That will translate as having more energy, more vibrancy during the day. And then once you have more energy, you can expend that in other areas. I don't typically say like, you need to get to the gym 5 times a week.
Sure.
You need to like change your whole nutrition plan. Like that's just not going to happen early on. And we need to build some sustainability. And I think
So
a
sleep's
quick win.
the first thing.
Sleep is the first thing for me. Yeah. I try to get people to sleep better. And I have some tools. I have some tricks. Magnesium is a lifesaver. Glycinate, not citrate or oxide or carbonate. Stay away from that stuff. Unless you have constipation, then those would be better. But glycinate is going to help you to relax and get to sleep and get a better quality of sleep. And like I said, once you sleep better, you have more energy and you can use that to expend on other areas of our care plan.
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
Is it 8 hours of sleep? Is that
For
the
most
goal?
people,
Okay.
yeah. And it's before midnight. It's those couple hours before midnight that are most restorative, 10, 11.
When do you go to sleep?
9:30.
Yeah.
I try. I mean, some days 10. You know, some days I'm working till 11 on my laptop.
Sure.
But my goal and what I try to get back to, the plan that works,
Yeah.
9:30, I'm in bed.
Yeah.
Sleeping by 10 for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you hear stuff on social all the time, right? But like, what are some of the common things? Like I've heard things like TV off 2 hours before, water no more, an hour. Like, what are some of those? Like, what are some of the other
those all
practices
are
you think people say? True.
They really are. Staying away from blue light is major. Disrupts melatonin production, the hormone that you need to calm and get to sleep.
Yeah.
If you're on your phone scrolling, I'm guilty of it too, but it's going to block that hormone production that you quite literally need to get to sleep.
Yeah.
So staying away from the phone, TV, if you can. You can always wear blue blockers to try to mitigate that effect. I take melatonin most nights. Magnesium, glycinate is great too, just to get you to sleep, get you to have a better quality sleep. And sleep hygiene is something that we talk about with our clients. So having some type of routine at night to move through, just to like tell your body like you're getting ready for sleep, moving through this process of calming and, maybe do your skincare, maybe you brush your teeth, maybe you pray, maybe you read, journal, something like that, just to like get you to a place that you're able to go to sleep. I think as business owners, we're all guilty of like working up until the last minute and then trying to go to sleep and you're like,
100%.
like in bed, like trying to make it happen. So yeah, preparing your body for sleep is major, and that really looks to sleep hygiene.
Fascinating. And that's kind of, because that's kind of what they say for children too, right? But I guess it's just,
You're a big
as adults, you're like, I don't need that anymore. But it's that systematic, like you're making your, I guess, unconscious body aware of like, I know what's coming next. Like I'm preparing to do this.
Yeah. Well, it tells your central nervous system that you can rest and digest now.
Yeah.
That's when healing happens.
Yeah. I'm, so.
Are you going to start MAG and melatonin tonight?
I don't know. I'm going to start, but I'm definitely going to be in bed early.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. No, it's so true. Like I could go to bed, if I go to bed at 9:30 and let's say my girls decide to hate me that morning and wake up at like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? I could go to bed at 9:30, wake up at 5 and feel like pretty good for the day. Like I'm pretty crisp. But if I go to bed at like 11:30 and wake up at 6, which is just like an hour shift difference.
Yeah.
It's like a major, like,
It is.
whoa, like this morning, like I don't know how this day will happen.
Yeah.
And that's still a lot of sleep compared to what I think some people get too.
Yeah. Well, I think as parents, when you have children, sometimes those night hours are the only time that you have with yourself or your spouse.
Yes.
So it's tough. It really is tough. You know, you
Yeah.
have to like kind of pick and choose, because those relationships are important too.
Sure.
Arguably just as important. So routine is essential,
Yeah.
but making space for your relationship is too. So maybe it's like, a 10:30
Right. It's yeah,
versus
the
a
trade-off.
9:30. Yeah, it's a trade-off.
What are you excited about right now?
What am I excited about? We are moving to a different space, bigger space.
Okay, yes, I did know.
So I'm very excited about that. It's a big project, but worked super hard to get here. So I'm excited about that. What else am I excited about? We're building our team. We have 2 providers that are starting with us, one this week, one in September, that are perfect fits. I'm telling you, perfect. I'm so excited for the community to meet them and to get to know them and to reap the benefits from all of their knowledge and training. I don't know if there's like something else outside of business that's exciting me. I don't know if that's like super lame, but this is my life. So business and growth and building our team, that's like what lights me up right now. That's what keeps me going.
Like, it is my hobby.
It's my hobby. And I have to like really think about it. Like, what else makes me happy? Sometimes my husband's like, you need to do something else. I'm like, but why?
Right.
Like, what else can I do?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. And I think when I had one business, I would always brainstorm and like kind of develop ideas or think about different things, or like, oh my gosh, you're doing that. We could turn that into a business. Now that I have 2, I'm just like, another business, like, shoot me in the head. Just like straight between the eyes.
Something similar when I hear like good ideas. I'm like, oh, that sounds like $1 million idea. Let's do that. Let's make this happen.
Yeah. No, I've definitely leveled out on that a little bit right now. Right now, at least.
You're content with your business efforts.
But it's the hobby.
It is.
Like, it is. Like, we'll do other things. Like, we'll go for hikes. We'll like,
it's truly what lights me up. It makes me happy. It keeps me going. It's that grind. It really is.
What do you engage with for your own continued growth related to your business? Like, what are your inputs that maybe aren't, like, coaches are good, right?
Yeah.
And probably the best.
Coaches are great. You have to invest in that early on. Inputs, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but just like having the best people around me that give me good feedback.
Yeah.
I am open to feedback, and I think that's an important thing as a business owner, is to be open to other people's opinions. But like on the flip side of that, it's also like having the confidence that like you have the vision and you've gotten to this point. So you can take all of those inputs and opinions, but you got to this point for a reason. So trusting in that path, I think. But yeah, inputs from like the people that come to mind are Dr. P. My mom is a huge part of our work. Sarah, these new providers that are coming on, those people I trust deeply and I care about what they have to say. And there's some friends in my life too, Victoria being one of them. I think of this other friend that I bounce ideas off. So just like having good people around that you trust that give good feedback.
Yeah. And what about any sort of like podcasts, books?
Yeah.
Are you a serial YouTuber on a certain like person? Like, what are some of those other things too?
Honestly, not so much anymore. I think this might be like a disappointing answer, but at one point in my journey, I was constantly reading and listening to podcasts, and there wouldn't be a minute in my day that I wasn't taking in information. And I think I got to a point where I was so saturated that it was almost clouding my inner dialogue. Like, it was just like too much.
Wow.
So kind of like taking a step back and trying to, again, like trust the process and not taking so much in at one point allowed me to have more clarity, if that makes sense.
It 100% makes sense.
Yeah.
Because do you do personality tests at all? Enneagram?
No, but
or
I've
like
been getting that. So it's been coming up more and more and more, and I need to do it. I need to figure it out what that is for me.
I'll give you my favorite, which is Enneagram. My whole team's done it. We actually did a workshop as a whole team. We took the day off.
That's so
last
cool.
Friday, we had a person come in who's actually a therapist.
Yeah.
But they do a lot of work with businesses.
That's
we
cool.
had like basically a team therapy session.
Yeah, that's so important though.
Yeah, it was super, super cool. And And some of that for me has led to different awarenesses related to exactly what you're saying. Where like I'm reading a book or I'm listening to a podcast and I'm learning something new, something applicable to my business. And I'm like, I need to run with this right away. Like we need to change everything.
Yeah.
Like, and it can be so distracting. So I understand exactly what you're saying related to the clarity.
And you have to hyper focus. Like there's a lot of things that you can do. Like from our point of view, I guess, like we can sell supplements, we can sell courses, we can sell programs, we can do all of these cool, amazing things that like align with our values and our mission as a company. But you have to have your core offerings so people can not be confused by what you're trying to do. Yeah. And that's where our membership comes in. Like that's really the only pathway to work with our team at the moment. And that's intentional.
Super smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. People know where to start.
Yeah.
And it opens the door to everything else.
Yeah. And it almost speaks to too, like this is a commitment. This is a commitment to yourself. It's going to take 6 months at least.
Yeah.
And people that are intimidated by that are not the right fits for us. And that's okay. It's not for everybody. We're not for everybody.
What are some of the common like objections? Maybe let's say the objections that someone, like the people who did end up doing a membership, but were some of their initial concerns?
Yeah, I think change is hard. And I think people want to change, but it's hard to do that. Changing your lifestyle, changing the food that you're eating, it's a major lift. And it sounds like it wouldn't be, but then you're in the sauce and it's like, well, I can't do this, or I feel left out of this, or my family cooks this. And all of that is important too. But when you're sick, you have to make those tough decisions. So I think, change is hard for one. And then it's a commitment. It's 6 months. So I think that can seem scary for people. And also like investing in yourself, I think people have a hard time doing. It's not something that we see in our day-to-day lives, I don't think, especially from like a health care standpoint. We're used to seeing providers in the insurance model and paying a copay and not necessarily investing early on in this type of work.
It's like so defensive versus offensive.
So that's different. It's more of a proactive approach. And our members value that. They want to work with somebody that has this perspective, has this point of view, and they want to collaborate with somebody and also want to get ahead of their health. Maybe they have kids or maybe they have goals or something that they know that they want to level up or be better or optimize. Those are our members.
Yeah. Is there anything that you feel super passionate about that like we haven't touched on at all yet?
I don't think so. I mean, gut health, I'm majorly passionate about, but we touched on it. Scratched the surface.
Yeah. So,
I think the membership in general, I'm super passionate about, which we talked about.
Yeah.
No, this is all so good.
I think the journey from being a subject matter expert to learning how to run a business is always hard, and it's certainly not for the faint of heart. If you're feeling tired or just know there's more for your health, then you can connect with Megan via her website, holistichealthcode.com. And here at Basecamp, we have entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. We have people who used to be work from home that just needed a space to work around other people, and they are living the ups and downs of a career-focused and business-focused life. And here at Basecamp, they get to do it in community with other people and be a part of podcast events like Basecamp Presents. And if you want to learn more about Basecamp and what we offer, you can check it out. And if you want to learn more about Basecamp and what we offer, go to basecampwork.com.